Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday, 7:15 here in Ireland, and today Roberto Watanabe from FEESP is here with us. It's always a pleasure to have him with us, giving the explanation, especially this year. He's concentrating his efforts in order to give us more details about the Medium's book. And today's topic is obsession. So it's it's a lot. There is a lot to cover about obsession. So welcome, Roberto.
Thank you, Esteban. Glad to be here again with you.
Good, good. So before we start, let's do our initial prayer. So I'd like to invite everyone to close your eyes if you can, if you want. Raise up your thoughts. Make connection with the superior spirits, with our mentors. Ask them to enlighten ourselves, guide us, support us. At the same time, help those brothers and sisters who are without shelter, those who are suffering from anxiety, suffering from depression, and especially those who are thinking about suicide. So be it. Amen. Okay, so we already have here Patrocínio, good to have you. Michelle Haddad. Let me see. Replying on time, please. Okay, Michelle. I will check it out. I will reply to you. Thank you. Thank you. So, without any other delay, let me see if everything is here. Okay, Paula Giazon, good to have you here as well, Paula. And let me put your screen here, Roberto.
Okay.
And we don't see anything, Roberto.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
okay.
Great. Okay. So I'll be here on backstage if you need me.
Okay, Esteban, thank you. So, hello, everybody, again. Today we are continuing to see the Medium's book, and we are going to talk today about obsession. It's an important chapter of the book. And we will go through all these issues as Kardec has written in that book. So, just to begin. So, what is obsession? According to Kardec, obsession is the domination that certain spirits, discarnate spirits, of course, may acquire over certain individuals, incarnate individuals, right? So, obsession is something that is done from a discarnate to the incarnate. But if we study a little bit more about this, we can also talk about obsession from an incarnate to another incarnate, an incarnate to a discarnate, and a discarnate to a discarnate. So it's a very you have various situations here, but here we are going to see the most frequent situation, which is the domination by the a discarnate spirit over an incarnate person, right? And obsession is always the work of less evolved spirits, because the good spirits, the evolved spirits, also can have an influence on us. But we don't say that is an obsession, right? That is actually help from them to us, right? So obsession has a kind of a negative accent, and that's why Kardec says that the good spirits never exert any kind of a coercion whatsoever. He respect our free will, right? And obsession so uh, have many characteristics from a simple to a more complex situation, and that is according to the degree of coercion that the spirits have upon us, and also according to the effect that such obsession produces on us. So that's why Kardec classify obsession as simple obsession, fascination, and subjugation. So when we go from simple to subjugation, we have a more complex situation. More the degree of coercion is higher, right? So let's talk about simple obsession. Simple obsession, Kardec says, occurs when malevolent spirits impose themselves upon mediums, upon us as mediums, right? So they interfere in the communications we receive. They impede us from communicate from another spirits. They want to be the sole communicator through us as mediums, and sometimes when can evoke some spirits, and they come and substitute themselves for those we evoked. So they are disturbing our communication, right? So this is a kind of the type of a simple obsession. And we also, as mediums, we may be deceived by such malevolent spirits without being obsessed, because when we are in the beginning of our practice as mediums, we still lack experiences, right? So we cannot discern when is a malevolent spirit or not. So that's why Kardec says that the best mediums are subject to deception in the beginning. And obsession has the main characteristic is that it consists in the tenacity of the spirit of a spirit from which the victim, which are us as mediums, cannot break free, right? So the discarnate spirit are always trying to dominate us. So that is the characteristic of the obsession. But this is a simple obsession. It means that it's not a very complex or difficult situation. The degree of coercion is not that high, right? So that's why Kardec says that in simple obsession, we as mediums, we know perfectly well that we are dealing with a deceptive spirit, and the spirit itself also does not disguise it from this from this influence upon us, and they don't it does not disguise its evil intentions and its desire to cause trouble to us, right? And so, as long as we as mediums are alert, we are rarely fooled by the spirit, because we know that it is trying to influence us, right? So, and we also can include it in the category of simple obsession, the physical obsession. It means uh, consists, for example, in noisy and obstinate manifestation of certain spirits. So they produce raps and other sounds just to disturb us, right? They try to disturb us through such raps and other sounds. And this is a kind of a physical obsession, but it's not any serious, right? So that's why it's called simple obsession. Fascination is something more complex, because fascinations refers to a delusion created by a spirit in the thought of us as mediums. And so the spirit, the discarnate spirit, it paralyzes our judgment capacity. So this is a more complex situation because we as mediums, we are being obsessed by the spirit, but we don't perceive. So that is the problem, right? So fascinated mediums, Kardec says, do not believe themselves to be deceived. They don't perceive, right? So they have a blind confidence and on the communication they receive from the spirits, and that blind confidence prevents them from realizing the absurdity sometimes of what they write, and even if everyone else can see it, such absurdity, the medium himself or herself does not realize. So that's why it's a more complex situation. And the consequences also of the fascination are very serious, Kardec says, because they can lead we as mediums to accept the most absurd doctrines and erroneous theories. And we believe that such absurd doctrines and erroneous theories uh, are the sole expression of truth, which is not right, but everybody realizes that, but only we don't. So, right? So, and also because of the fascination, the spirit can incite us to foolish, compromising, and even dangerous acts. Because, as it was said in the beginning, the spirit paralyzes our judgment capacity. So that's why we don't realize the deception uh, we are being victim, right? So this is a situation of a fascination, and in order to achieve their purpose, the fascinating spirit, Kardec says, must be skillful, cunning, and deeply hypocritical. So they present to us under a famous name, for example, Francis of Assisi, and then they talks about charity, humility, love for God, and then we are kind of mistaken by such words. But if we, if the medium had the capacity, the judgment capacity, then he or she could see that it's in the middle of such a beautiful message, there are lots of nonsense things, nonsense words, right? So that's why Kardec says that through it, all these grandiose words, and there are signs of something that it does not have something that's not correct, right? So, and then we can perceive how little evolved such spirits are, right? In spite of the words that they are communicating. So, and everybody can see that, but the fascinating medium don't. So that's the problem here, right? So, and such spirits, such fascinating spirits, they get away from persons who can see things clearly. So if a friend of the medium, for example, approach him and says, well, this message is not correct, right? Then the tactic of the fascinated spirit is to get that friend away from the medium, just in order to control the medium, right? So that's what Kardec saying here, right? The tactic of the spirits is to inspire the medium to avoid whoever might open their eyes, right? So in that way, they can have control upon the medium. So this is a more complex, serious situation here. Then we have subjugation, which is the third type of obsession. So subjugation, according to Kardec, is a constriction that causes the mediums or its victims uh, will to be paralyzed, so making them act in spite of themselves. So it's a situation where many times we are aware of what we are doing is not correct or is not good, but we do it anyway, as we were forced to do that. That's why the name is subjugation, right? And it can be either mental or physical. In the case of the mental subjugation, and those who are subjugated, we as mediums, for example, we are led to make absurd decisions we regard as sane. We think it's sane, but it's not, right? So that's why Kardec says that it is a type of fascination. Because here we don't perceive it, we don't realize that the decision we are taking are not correct, right? And then in the case of the physical subjugation, the spirits, the discarnate spirits, act as upon the physical organs, our physical organs, right? Uh, as mediums, and then they act in order to produce involuntary movements. Kardec says. For example, he gives here an example: a writing medium who, in the absence of a pen or pencil, pretended to write with his fingers on the wall, for example, right? So he pretended that he was writing with his finger. There were no pen, there was no pencil, no pen in his hand. So this is a kind of which is a nonsense act, right? So everybody can see it, but the mediums, like, well, sometimes he can perceive that, but he cannot avoid to do that, right? So that's why he suffered in this situation. We are going to see another situation similar to this. Corporeal subjugation, which is the same as the physical subjugation, right? Sometimes goes far as to lead the medium to commit the most ridiculous acts, Kardec says. So he gives an example in the Book of the Mediums of a man who was coerced to fall on his knees before a woman in whom he had no interest whatsoever. And then he fell on his knees and asked her to marry him. So that's a ridiculous act in the sense that he himself had no intention regarding the woman, but what they did, it seemed that they had some intention to her, right? So, and at the other times, Kardec says, he felt a strong pressure on his back, so pressure to bend his body, right? So that caused him to kneel and kiss the earth in public places. So that's something that was very embarrassing to him, right? Because he was fully conscious of what he was doing, but he could not avoid it. So he suffered from it terribly, Kardec says, right? So that is subjugation. We are forced to do something, right? So that we wouldn't do. So that is the situation here. And now let's talk about obsession and mediumship. Obsession, Kardec says, is one of the greatest obstacles of mediumship, and one of the most frequent, because since we are mediums, we are open to the influence of the spirits. And then comes the malevolent spirits trying to have an influence and to dominate us. So that's why Kardec says that is one of the greatest obstacles, right, of the mediumship. And every communication given through an obsessed medium, we cannot believe, right? So is of a suspected origin, Kardec says, and have no merit. So we always, as Kardec always used to say, right? Every communication that we have from the spirits, we must analyze, we must apply reason and good common sense. Even if the spirit says, well, he names himself as an elevated spirit, we must analyze its communication. And I always used to say that, right? So, how do how can we recognize an obsession? And Kardec give here a list of characteristics. So the first is that the spirits, the obsessing spirits, it insists on communicating, whether the medium desires it or not, right? And he tried to uh, let away, to put away all the other spirits that want to communicate through that medium. He himself wants to be the sole communicator. So this is a characteristic of obsession. Second set of characteristics is that the situation of fascination, right? When the illusion, the medium, we as mediums, we have the illusion, and then such illusion prevent us from recognizing the falseness and ridiculousness of the communications we receive. So that's the situation of fascination. And also related to fascination is the belief in the infallibility of the spirits communication, spirits who communicate and who state lies and absurdities under respectable names. And we as mediums, and only we, cannot perceive that, right? Realize that. So that's a characteristic of mid obsession. And also some other characteristics. The medium's acceptance of a praise from the spirits. The spirits, our bad intention in spirits, they used to praise the medium, right? To feed his pride, his or her pride, right? So, and then in that situation, he can have a strong influence on the medium. That's a situation of obsession. And also a propensity for avoiding those who could provide enlightenment about the situation. So when I am a medium and I try to get away from me everyone who could open my eyes, and that's a situation of an obsession. And also, if it's someone criticize the communication I received, I take that as an offense, right? So also is a sign of obsession. And sometimes we, as mediums, we have an incessant and inopportune need to write, right? So that is a situation which doesn't make any sense to write, and we feel that need to write, right? So this is a situation of obsession. So in general, you can see that is a situation when we can see that the person is under some strong influence to do something that he would not do in that situation, or something that is forcing him to do something. And so in this kind of situation, we have the obsession. And then also, Kardec says, any form of a physical coercion that dominates the will and forces one to act, to speak without wanting to. So this is the example of that man, right? Who getting into his knees and ask that woman to marry him. And also the continuous noises and disturbance around the mediums. That also is a sign of an obsession. So there are many hints here where we can identify an obsession, right? A situation of of obsession. So Kardec continues here. In light of the danger of the obsession, the question arises as to whether it's not actually regrettable to be a medium. So what Kardec saying here? Well, if we as mediums, we are always under the possibility of being obsessed by a medium, then it's better to it's better not to be a medium, right? To practice mediumship, because then we could avoid that situation. And the answer is, we cannot avoid such situation, right? Because spirits have always exerted their beneficial or harmful influence on humankind. So we can uh, learn that on the book, the Spiritist book, right, where the Spirit says that they are always influence us for good or for bad, right? Good or bad depending on our behavior, and so it means that obsession is not something that happens only to mediums. Obsession can happen to everyone, right? So that is the situation. So even if we do not believe that the spirits exist, the discarnate spirit exists, we are exposed to it like anyone else. It means that a person may say, "Well, I don't believe in spirits. For me, there are only incarnate people, and when we die, it's all over, right?" So even the person who thinks like this, he's not exempt from obsession. He can be obsessed also, right? Well, this stance, this position from him can be the result of an obsession, right? So to defend such a situation, such a thinking, right? And and then in the absence of a mediumship, spirits exert such influence in 1,000 other ways, right? And that are it's not that are more concealed or less so. So the spirits are also influence us, and even if they are they show themselves, they don't disguise its action or something. In some situation, they act as not showing themselves, right? So hidden in a hidden situation. So and in that case, it's good to be a medium because mediumship, Kardec says, enables us to identify the spirits who are trying to influence us. We can, Kardec says, meet our enemies face to face and combat them with their own weapons, right? Because in such situation of the obsession, we can through mediumship we can talk with the malevolent spirits, and we can resolve our let's say our differences with him, right, with it. So that's why mediumship is not a bad thing, it's a good thing in this situation. To if we didn't practice mediumship, then we were totally open to their influences and have no way to resolve the situation. That's what Kardec saying here, right? And now, what are the motives behind obsession? Why are spirits try to obsess us? Right. So the motives vary according to the character of the spirits. Kardec says. Sometimes the spirit must take revenge from us, right? Either probably because we did some harm to him or her in the past, in present life, or in previous life, right? So this is a situation of a revenge, but often is simply, Kardec says, the desire to do evil, because since the malevolent spirits it suffers, they want others, they wish to make others suffer too. So that's the another motive to an obsession. And sometimes they act as out of hatred or and jealousy toward whatever is good, right? So that's another situation. And others, Kardec says, are driven by sheer cowardice, right? They take advantage of the mental weakness of certain persons. So that is all the motive behind obsession. And that's why in the beginning, Kardec says, right, obsession is always from less evolved spirits, because such kind of a behavior, they comes only from a less evolved spirits. And Kardec also says that there are obsessing spirits who are not evil, but they are dominated by pride or false wisdom. So they wish to impose their opinion on us, right? And to do so, they seek mediums that are sufficiently credible to accept them. So in this case, it's a kind of uh, spirits who are dominated by pride, right? Right. So they have no scruples about calling themselves, presenting themselves as Jesus, the Virgin Mary, or some venerated saint. For example, Saint Augustine, for example, right? And they try to delude their victims, which means us as mediums, by using pompous languages, as we have already seen, right? And morality, however, is the least of their concern. Although they use words like charity, morality, they are not. They have no interest in that, right? So they just want to impose their false ideas, and that is the situation here, right? So these are not malevolent spirits. There are spirit dominated by pride in this situation. What are the means of combating obsession? So vary. Such means vary depending on the characteristics in which it appears. Simple obsession, for example, right? So simple obsession poses no real danger for the medium, but the medium must be aware, you know, what is happening. Then he just must prove to the spirits that he or she is not being deceived by the spirit, and by the perseverance, then it comes to a point that the spirit himself um, sees that it's wasting time, and then he withdraw, right? So it's easier to resolve the situation here. Um, but Kardec says sometimes the spirit also can insist on trying to dominate us, right? So in such case, um, we can also ask for the help for our guardian angel or our protector spirit and the good spirits through prayer, right? So and then in that situation, uh, we can have this help and resolve the problem. The obsessing spirit in the beginning will laugh at all these that we do, but if we persevere in this process of a moralization, then it will end up amending itself, Kardec says. Right? We have to treat the spirit uh, benevolently, but with a firm position, right? So it's kind of a situation here which is necessary to resolve the situation. Fascination is a little bit complex, poses great danger, Kardec says, because in such case, the spirit dominates us as mediums. We cannot perceive what is happening, right? So in that case, if you are trying to help a medium who is being fascinated, we can try to talk to him, right? To give some help in order for him to realize what is happening. But sometimes he's not open to listen anything that could keep him away for that situation. In that case, as Kardec says, since there is no one as blind as those who do not want to see, the best is to simply leave the mediums along with his or her delusions. And sometimes in the future, he will realize what is happening, right? Actually, he will end this suffering a little bit before realizing what's happening. Um, in the case of the corporeal or physical subjugation, uh, since it deprives those who are obsessed of the energies needed to gain control over the evil spirits, then uh, it means that a person is being subjugated by the spirit, and it doesn't have the energies needed to gain. The energy, it means the fluids, right? To the magnetism necessary to defend him or herself from the spirit. So in that case, a help from a third person is required, because this third person, through magnetism, through passes, as we say, can help the medium, right? So to get out of that situation. And also, we can also, a third person can also talk to the spirit, right? To the obsessing spirits, and then we can talk to him or her, or this to the spirit, and change his or her mind, right? But in order to do that, Kardec says, as, there is something that is very important, which is that we who are talking to the spirit, we must be more morally superior to it. Otherwise, we would have no good outcome from this conversation, right? Because the spirit, he sees, right? He perceives whether we are superior or not, morally, right? So this is the situation here. So we are talking here about what happens in the spirit centers in general, right? So when the person comes, whether they are mediums or not, and they are being obsessed, and then they come to the spirit center to get the spiritual assistance. Then they come, they hear the gospel, uh, some text from the gospel. They receive the passe, and what we call the passe, and then and then the mediums from that spirit center evoke the spirits, the spirit that is obsessing that person, and then a speaking medium, a talking medium receive the spirit, and then we have the doctrinator, the guy or girl who talk to the spirit, and they have this superior morality, right? To convince him get to get away from that obsession situation. So that's what happened in the spirit center. We call this obsession, right? So this is very important. Um, what Kardec says also is that the what causes obsession, right? Obsession is something that, well, I'm here doing my life, right? And then suddenly I'm obsessed from nothing. No, it doesn't happen from nothing, right? What attracted the obsession is our moral imperfections, whether we are mediums or not, right? So our moral imperfections is something that attracted the obsession, and it also is the obstacle that are on the way to release ourselves from the obsessing situation, right? So Kardec gives here an interesting situation of a group of two sisters who had been victim of a very unpleasant acts of depredation, he says, right? So the clothes of those sisters were constantly being scattered throughout the house, were shredded, cut, and poked full of holes. Imagine the chaos of that situation. And so the cause was obvious, right? The cause was malevolent spirits. But, well, why such spirit was doing that, right? That is the main thing to think. And then the remedy was very difficult, Kardec says. And what was the problem? The problem was that those sisters loved to speak ill of their neighbor. And such a neighbor when he was incarnate, right? So when he was incarnate, they loved to speak bad of him, right? So, and then after he dies, and then he becomes their obsessor, right? So that situation here, because he had been a scapegoat, Kardec says, for the sisters during his life. And then now, after life, he tries to take revenge, right, for doing all the things. So how can we uh, resolve the situation? It's not only by talking to the spirit, right? But also we, as the moral, imperfect moral persons, we must correct our ways, right? So that's why Kardec says only by mending their ways, this of their sister, of course, their guardian angels would help them to get out from that situation, right? So this is a very interesting situation here from Kardec. So we we don't need to have any fear, right, from being obsessed from uh, any spirit, right? It always depends on our moral imperfection. So it means that if we try to improve ourselves morally, then we are less and less open to such a kind of evil influence. So, and that's also Kardec says that we must avoid attributing to the spirits all of our troubles. Because if I have I'm having my normal life, and then I have a problem that comes up in my life, and then say, oh, I'm being obsessed, right? So it means it's not I'm not the cause of my problems. Someone else is or the cause of my problem, right? So Kardec said, well, that's not always the situation is not like this, right? Because sometimes the problems that we have, the trouble that we have in our life, is the result of our own carelessness. He says here, right? So he give an example of a farmer whose animals. The cows no longer gave milk, the horses, sheep, and pigs died, and then he thought, well, this all this happening to me is because I have been a target of a spell. Right? But then, by looking closer, this the situation here is that the death or sickness of his animals was because his stables were infected, right? Because he had not cleaned sufficiently the stables. Why? Because it would cost too much, right? So in this case, the problem that he is facing is caused by himself and not by any obsessing spirit, right? So that is something very important to also to think about. When we can have problems, we cannot think that, well, this is an obsessor, right? It can we ourselves can be the reason for that problem. So then, just to point here, it's important, Kardec says, to note that not only mediums, but anyone may become victims of obsession, but depending on our moral imperfections. That is important to say, right? So that's why we have to present today about the obsession issue. That is very important in the mediumship issue, and then in the next presentation, November, we will be studying about the evocation and dialogue with the spirits, right? So how we can dialogue with the spirits, even if they are obsessing spirit or high evolved spirit, or any kind of a spirit. So with this, I end my presentation and are open to any questions or remarks you may have. Thank you. Stephen?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. It's good to classify the types of obsession. It's always good to let the people know an obsession. It's not a spirit taking control over us. This will never happen.
Mm,
The spirit will suggest a kind of pattern behavior for you, and you will decide if you take it or not.
Mm.
Now, a spirit will never infringe the action and reaction, the free will. So neither
Okay.
God uh,
Mm.
make us change our free will, you know. So a spirit, obsessed with spirit, will do not it as well.
Mm. Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
our our friend this, she put it here. Prayer is the shortest path that leads us to God, isn't it?
Yes, there's a prayer and also a good act, right? So uh, we we pray for God to help us in our good intention, right? Of the good act that we are going to do. So that's the combination. So that's why Kardec says, Kardec, no, the Spirit says in the Spirit's book that the best prayer to God is the good actions, right? So it's not to talk to God and to say a prayer, but to act in helping others, to love the neighbors. So that's the best prayer. And prayer in this sense, for sure, is the shortest path that leads us to God, right? Regarding the obsession, Stephen, something interesting is that in the Mitchell's book, Kardec says only about the three kind of obsession, right? Simple obsession, fascination, and subjugation, either physical or mental. But it is interesting that on the Genesis, book of Genesis, he talks about the possession. So possession is a more complex and more, it's the maximum coercion that the spirits have upon us, because in that situation, the spirit takes control of our body. But what is interesting that Kardec says there is that possession can come not only from evil spirits, but also from good spirits. And then you can remember. I mean, we can remember of Divaldo Pereira Franco. There are some situations in the he was, for example, in some meetings, some congress, some seminar, and then at the end of the seminar, he used it to receive the Bezerra de Menezes, the spirits,
Yes.
right? And then all his face transfigured. Looks like the voice looks like Bezerra, the face. So that situation was something close to what we call possession. It's something that happened coming from a good spirit, but we can also have something good coming from a bad spirit, right? So and that is a very serious situation, because you can imagine that in that situation, a person who is being possessed by a evil spirit, he can do very serious acts. For example, to 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 attack someone, right? So and, and some give some serious injuries to someone. So that situation here, another situation regarding obsession.
Yes. Yes. Good. Thank you. Thank you. We don't think we do have any other questions. Just people saying, Leandro, say thank you. Paula Gialzão também also saying thank you. So it was amazing, and it's important to have this kind of knowledge, because we sometimes we don't know we have some company, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and we are with a lot of them with us, you know. But
yeah,
this is everything. What we call them is our tuning. Where are you tuning? Are you tuning with good thoughts, good, like like you said, good behaviors?
Mm,
Are you treating your neighbor as it should be, with respect?
mm,
Respect the boundaries, respect the opinion,
mm,
respect the differences?
mm,
Or are the guy who say, you need to do what I want, the way I want, how I want?
mm,
So of course, you will attract people. Where is your mind?
mm. Yeah, exactly.
If your thoughts are, even though you are in a terrible situation, passing through problems, which everybody goes through, but your thoughts are in good spheres, in high level thought, so it's gonna it's gonna be not a easy, but it's gonna be a well assisted journey throughout these problems. But when you are passing through problems, and then you start to say bad words, cursing, all these things, of course you'll be attracted for those spirits.
Yeah,
So,
it all depends on our thinking and our behavior. Uh, the most subtle situation, Esteban, is like this. Suppose that you are, well, you are in a normal situation, working, talking to people. Your mood is, let's say, the usual, and then suddenly you feel sad. The sadness which comes from nothing, right? So there is no reason for that sadness you are feeling. So this is a clearly sign of obsession. What you should do in that situation? Well, you should take attention to that, and make a prayer, like you just said, right? Change our thinking, and then we get away from that, right? So this is a subtle situation, but by the other hand, when you are angry, when you are thinking about evil things, by sure that you are being obsessed also, because whenever we have such a type of thinking, we attract similar spirits that thinking similar to us, right? So if we think about the war, for example, right? This tragedy of this war, the guy who is ordering all these massacres, well, he is surrounded by obsessors, right? And
mm,
he doesn't he or they, right? They doesn't realize that they are surrounded. And also the opposite, when we're thinking about having a good things to do and helping people, we are surely be assisted by good spirits. But so always depend on us, right? So
mhm.
there is
And,
no.
Roberto, a friend of mine, he made a comparison,
Mm,
and I think he he spotted,
mm,
because he said, we are under control of everything,
mm,
and we attract whatever is our mind. It's
yeah.
like today when you write in a Facebook socks or Instagram socks.
Mm,
Just a silly example. 10 minutes, 2 minutes later, you will be bombarded by advertising of socks.
yeah,
Red,
yeah,
white, black, blue is the same thing.
yeah, exactly.
It's a silly one,
Yeah,
but it is right, because you just made a simple search on Google, socks. I want to
yeah,
buy socks, and then you have it on everywhere,
yeah,
merchandise adverts about socks. Come on, I just want
yeah,
one pair of socks. Now I have
yeah,
all these things. But it's true, works
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Then you get interested on that issue, and then you keep receiving, right?
Yeah, now as much as you try to get rid of those ads, more you get it.
Yeah,
And it is true. This is an obsession.
yeah. You must change your mind, then the situation changes. So
Exactly.
it's a good analogy that you did, Esteban.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah,
Okay. So it's time we need to finish.
right.
We do have our virtual healing 8:30. So our team is ready to receive you. So please go to our YouTube page. So Spiritism Society of Ireland. It's not broadcasting the prayer and the virtual healing in Facebook, only on YouTube. So please go there, and it's 20-15 minutes. But the team is preparing this with much care for you, and they will help you, guiding you, because many of you don't say, "Oh, I don't know how to do a prayer. I don't know what." Just follow them. Just stay with them and connect. Okay. So also every Tuesday and every Thursday we do have our session here. Um, on Wednesday we do have our spiritist book study group. So this is a private group. So if you want to join, which don't require anything from you, just your email, and we will send you the link. And this Sunday, 16th of October, we will have our face-to-face meeting in Dublin. So if you don't know where our new address, I invite you to go to www.isf.ie. And there you have our address, which is in Irishtown Road in what's the name? I forgot. In Ringsend. So, and we wait for you. So the we start at 11, and I'll be waiting for you there. So this Sunday, 16th of October, we do have our session, face-to-face meeting. Okay. So Roberto, once more, I want to say thank you for you for all the directors and FEESP who's supporting you with this engagement, with this task we have here. So I
Yes.
want to say thank you. And Roberto, we're back on 22nd of November with the last part of the Medium's book. Okay?
Okay.
So, Roberto, thank you very much. Thank you all. I wish you all a happy day and a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you, Esteban. Bye.